Hi. What was that?
That's the audio bridge.
Well, I wanted to kill about 10 birds with one stone, so instead of everybody coming by today that was asking, I thought I'd just do it this way. So what I'd like to do today is to tell you where we've been, where we are, and where we're going. As you know, over 72% of the people of Florida voted to have medical marijuana in the state of Florida. In the lead up to that, we had to put together something called the Statement of Intent. In that Statement of Intent, it lays out our intent. And in that Statement of Intent, we clearly lay out that smokable marijuana will be used as part of medical marijuana. Very clear. The state has argued, if you can believe it or not, that the Statement of Intent really doesn't matter because the voters don't read it. That's like saying, well, I guess people who don't read the paper can't vote. The Statement of Intent was also used by the state in their case against Joe Redner. When they needed the Statement of Intent, they said, look at the Statement of Intent. When they don't want the Statement of Intent, they say the voters don't read it. So it doesn't matter. But we clearly laid out that smokable marijuana was anticipated. We then went further in the ballot. You can only have so many words in the actual ballot wording. And we said very clearly there that smokable marijuana would not be allowed in public. Now look, I don't think you have to be too much of a scholar to understand that if it's not allowed in public, it's allowed in private. So clearly, from the Statement of Intent, the ballot language, we always believed and knew that that was what it was anticipated. Also remember this, the state of Florida, the legislature, they could have done anything. They could have said no edibles, they could have said no cream, they could have said no vapor. They could have eliminated a whole bunch of others, but they decided to eliminate smoke because, in their opinion, it was a backdoor for people to be able to smoke marijuana. And that's how we got here today. I knew what I was saying, the voters knew what I was saying, and that's why I had to sue the state of Florida to allow really sick people to use smokable marijuana. It is, for many people, the most direct and effective mechanism for immediate relief. Primarily, my client, Kathy Jordan, who's dying of ALS. The state would really like for her to die, for her just to go away. It's almost been a waiting game. So here's where we are today. Karen Gievers, the judge in Tallahassee, put together a very detailed, reasoned ruling that says smokable marijuana is allowed and lays out the reasons in a 22-page document. Within 1 hour of that ruling, the state of Florida appealed it. I do not know if Kathy Jordan will live long enough to see this through. But I will tell you what, I've never met anyone more heroic in my life. So now, where do we go from here? The first thing I want everyone to understand, I don't think people do understand this, the person who has the power with this appeal is Governor Rick Scott. It's not Pam Bondi. She's the lawyer for the state. The defendant is the Department of Health. What everyone needs to understand is that Governor Scott could remove that appeal today if he wants. It's not Pam Bondi's decision, it's his decision. He runs the Department of Health. The Department of Health has been an absolute disaster in the implementation. I don't need to tell you about how bad that has all been. So the first thing I would say today is this. Yeah, we'll fight this appeal if we have to, but we really shouldn't have to. Really what should happen is that Governor Scott should say, you know what? Enough is enough. I am going to allow the people's will to be done. Governor Scott, in almost every single photo opportunity I've ever seen him in, he wears a Navy hat. And I guess it's for politics. I guess he was in the Navy, I don't know. But do you know who wants this more than anyone? Who wants smokable marijuana more than anyone? Veterans. Those are the people who have gone and fought senseless wars, come back here destroyed with post-traumatic stress disorder, and this is their best relief. I would say to every veteran out there, every time you see him in that Navy hat, you remember this: he's the one stopping you from getting the relief that you need. So we're in an election year for Governor Scott. And by the way, I get along with him. I'm friendly with him. But I will tell you this, and this is a message today for Governor Scott. I believe that your decision to allow this to go on could have serious, serious ramifications in your election against Bill Nelson. This is as clear a day situation as ever we've seen. The people of Florida, overwhelmingly, it wasn't 50%, it wasn't 60%, it wasn't even 70%, it was 72% want this. And so what we're going to do, first of all, is I'm going to wait and see what Rick Scott does. The ball is in his court. The decision is his. Do you know who wants this to go on as long as possible? The makers of opioids. Because marijuana, in all of its forms, is the best fight against opioids. It kills more people under 50 than anything else in America. And the most direct method to get relief is smokable marijuana. This is an issue of compassion. This has evidently become a political issue. And Governor Scott is going to have to make a decision whether he is going to put politics over people, whether he's going to put campaign contributions from the pharmaceutical industry over compassion. And really, when you get right down to it, because I've thought about this long and hard, what is this? This is plain old meanness. This is just plain old meanness. The people that we're fighting for and have been fighting for are people who are terribly injured, terribly hurt, fighting for their lives or dying. And when I say fighting for our lives, our veterans who want this for their post-traumatic, they're fighting for their lives. Suicide amongst veterans is at a sky-high level. And so the question is, will meanness and politics trump people and compassion and kindness? Before I leave here today, I've got phone numbers because I want the people of Florida to call Governor Scott. I want them to go to his Facebook page. I want them to go to his Twitter page and say, listen, Rick, this is not a political issue. Disease and illness and injury does not pick Republicans and Democrats and independents and libertarians. This is an issue of compassion. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait and see what he does. And then I'm going to go ahead and continue on. And ultimately, at the end of the day, Kathy Jordan may be dead by the time this finally gets us all the way to the court. But before it's all over, the will of the people of Florida will be done, and we will win, and there will be real compassion for people to do with their own bodies what they want to take care of themselves the best way they can. So that's kind of the long story, and if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer those as well.
clients not get smokable marijuana from physicians right now?
They cannot. They cannot. It's only vape, it's edibles, there's some cream, but the scientific studies are very clear that the most effective delivery system that is immediate and effective is smoke. Now what they're going to say is, oh, smoke is a health hazard. And it's so ridiculous when you even hear it said, because you're talking about Kathy Jordan, who's dying of ALS, people who are ravaged with AIDS and post-traumatic stress disorder and epilepsy and multiple sclerosis. They're saying, we're worried about some smoke.
Yeah.
I mean, it is so bizarre that and so ridiculous that it's hard to even believe that that's their argument, that they're now worried about someone, a patient with multiple sclerosis, having too much smoke that could somehow affect their health. It's bizarre.
Have you seen any indication of Big Pharma trying to position itself to somehow profit off of medical marijuana?
Big Pharma's been trying to figure this out forever and ever. They got a little pill called Marinol. They know it. Listen, Big Pharma knows it works. They've got this little pill called Marinol, but that pill in that form does not work. As soon as this is legal, federally, what you will see is Big Pharma and Big Tobacco and Big Alcohol and all the big people will come rushing in, and they will buy up all the mom and pops, and that will be their industry. They know it works. We all know it works. And you know why you know it works? Think about this for a minute. The people who are buying the medical marijuana, they have the option. All of you all work for a company. You've got an insurance card. The insurance doesn't pay for this. So in other words, you have to make a decision. I would rather not have the pharmacy card. I would rather not have the poison in my body. And I would rather take my own cash and go pay a lot of money for medical marijuana. Why? Because it works, and because I don't want to be addicted. I don't want my family to be addicted. I don't want to die. Opioids kill people. I'm representing the state of Kentucky, Broward County, Key West, Fort Lauderdale. I'm in the big MDL in Cleveland. When you get inside of what has gone on in the opioid industry, what it is, this is not a typo here, this is not a slip of the tongue. They have been engaged in premeditated murder. It is worse than tobacco because it was prescribed. Tobacco wasn't prescribed. They've done it intentionally. They knew people were getting too many pills, but they didn't care because the profits were so grotesque.
So the last time I checked, there were about a little over 100,000 people registered with the Office of Medical Marijuana Use. Do you have any idea what percentage of them would be benefiting more from smokable marijuana rather than what they're using?
It's all different for all different types of people. You know, Kathy Jordan, look, she grows hers illegally and says, listen, and she has tried everything. Kathy Jordan has tried everything. If vape works, she would use it. You're talking about a woman, if you've ever seen her, she's in a wheelchair, basically paralyzed. You can barely understand her. She has tried everything, but none of it works. She's not looking to get high. She's looking to stay alive. And for her, the only thing that gives her relief is the smoked version. And so what she's made a decision is to do this. I'm going to grow my own. I will risk this. Come and take me to jail. Because the alternative is I'm going to die in a painful state anyway. And so I can tell you this, for the veterans with the post-traumatic stress disorder, it is hands down smoke. And I believe that is going to be one of the real areas where Governor Scott has problems with voters. When this heats up, when this election gets down to November, Governor Scott is going to have to explain to veterans and really sick people and people who have really bad injuries why you kept this going. It's it, and the one thing we cannot do today, we cannot say this is Pam Bondi. Pam Bondi is just his lawyer. And I've got clients that come here all the time, and my clients can tell me at any time, settle the case, stop the appeal. Rick Scott is the boss, and the buck stops there with the man wearing the Navy hat.
So why do you think he is taking this political risk?
I think for some people, they are so disinformed and misinformed about marijuana that they just kind of have this stigma about it, that marijuana is bad, that it's like LSD, and and I don't know that it, on one hand, that's the only explanation, that, just say no, that's in his mind. Just say no. But what you're saying no to, in this instance, is compassion. You're not saying, this is not people who want to go out and have fun and party on a Saturday night. Listen, if if any of us want marijuana, I have no idea where to get it right now, but I guarantee you I could have a bag of it in 5 minutes. I mean, because I'd have to go down the elevator, I'd get on the street. Don't want to do it on the phone. But I could have a bag of marijuana in 5 minutes. And if you want any, just go to any high school campus in the state of Florida. You can get in 3 minutes. This is not stopping people from getting smokable marijuana. This is stopping sick people, older people, veterans who don't want to go to jail, who don't want to take that risk like Kathy Jordan is willing to do. That's all it is.
And to be clear, this is about comfort, not cures.
Exactly. At this point. Look, there's a lot of research being done on marijuana. Some of it is miraculous. But right now, this is just for my brother Tim. My brother Tim has the choice of taking Vicodin or marijuana. Vicodin really makes him happy. I mean, it really makes him happy. But it really messes him up. And when he got rid of all the Vicodin and started using nothing but marijuana. Now, by the way, for Tim, he's okay with vape. Vape works for Tim. There's different strokes for different folks. But for Tim, the alternative was Xanax, Vicodin, Percocet. He's got a 9-year-old daughter. He was a zombie. I mean, you take 3 Xanax like he was taking, those will put a cow down. And so it is all about comfort. It is all about compassion. It is about living and dying with dignity and not being relegated to using opioids. I don't know how much, the Trump administration is fighting opioids. Rick Scott is fighting opioids. But how do you fight opioids when you're taking away one of the really great methods to counteract it? And never, ever, ever underestimate the power of money. Remember the movie, Follow the Money, Follow the Money? Never underestimate that power. Every day that the manufacturers of opioids stop people from getting the most helpful way to help themselves, they make more money.
Do you think the answer is just maybe possibly just getting it legalized and passed, and then
Oh,
maybe
look,
to
listen.
jump through these hoops for poor people who do need it?
Beyond to the exclusion of all that, we all know, everybody here knows that one day marijuana will be legal recreationally in America. We know that. Nobody gives a shit anymore, except a few mean people. And by the way, you know why it should be legal? Because, when you talk about, and I've said this to these gubernatorial candidates, I've said this, and I'll say this to Phil Levine and to Gwen Graham, they're going, well, we are in favor of decriminalizing. Decriminalizing is a cop-out. Because decriminalizing is not legalizing. Decriminalizing just means you don't go to jail, but it doesn't mean you don't get arrested. It doesn't mean it's still not on your record. It doesn't mean you still don't go to the jail. Decriminalization just means, oh, okay, that you don't have to serve any time. You've still been arrested, it's still on your record, and you still went to jail. And you know who the people are whose lives are ruined as a result? Poor people, young people, minorities. That's who gets arrested. No, you know, lawyers and doctors and engineers who buy their marijuana, they're not going to get caught. So look, the real answer, and it will be someday, these dominoes are falling like crazy. You know, I said to somebody the other day, I said, you remember same-sex marriage? She said, wait, we woke up one day and there was same-sex marriage. We're like, how the hell did that happen? That's good. How did it happen? You remember, you don't even know, y'all are in the business. How did it happen? It just happened one day. And that's what's going to happen here. One day, these dominoes are falling one by one by one by one by one by one. We got these 80-year-old attorney generals who are still living in the dark ages. Look, anybody whose middle name is Beauregard, I'm concerned about being attorney general. When that's the guy that's in charge, I'm concerned. But those people will go away, and insanity and compassion will take over.
How long are you going to wait to hear from Mr. Scott?
I'm going to wait a couple of weeks, and then what I'll do, like I did in this case, the good thing for me is I am a lawyer. I do know what I'm doing. In this case, I moved. There's a procedure in Florida that if a person is terminally ill, you can move to expedite trials, hearings, the whole process. And so what I'll do, like I did in this case with Judge Gievers, is what I'm thinking about doing. Now, look, this is a road none of us have ever walked down before. And what I may do is I just may move to expedite it straight to the state Supreme Court. I don't know if they would have to take it. And look, I'm not sure that everybody thinks, hey, it's the first DCA. Oh, that's a conservative district. That's how we're going to win there. I'm not so sure about that. I know those people up there. Ricky Paulston's up there. He and my wife work together all the time on child trafficking. These people are conservative. It doesn't mean they're not compassionate. And it doesn't mean they won't follow the law. The statement of intent is the statement of intent, and it's very clear. I don't care who you are as a judge, that's going to win. We will win, I believe, if we go all the way through it. It's just, for me, it's for Kathy Jordan.
So where does the case actually stand now? Because I thought the state Supreme Court said that they would not take up DOH's appeal. So is it with them, or is it with
It's with the first district right now. It's with the first district court of appeals right now.
Have you called Governor Scott at all? I'm sure you've got a cell phone.
I've got, listen, I do happen to have his number here. I'd like to give it to you.
Now?
What I would like for everybody in Florida to do is to call Governor Scott at 850-488-7146, at Twitter at Florida Governor Scott, and Facebook at Scott for Florida. Listen, Rick Scott is not a bad guy. I've had dinner with him. I have had conversations with him. I really like his wife. He really likes my wife. She's a Republican. But this madness has to end. How much more money is the state of Florida going to spend chasing their tail so that a year can go by and Kathy Jordan dies and she never gets to see what she fought for? How many veterans have to go a year or a year and a half without getting the real help they need? How many people who have ALS, multiple sclerosis, AIDS, cancer, go out there and interview any oncologist in town and ask them what they think about what we're doing? it's very hard to find anyone who's against it who will come out and say it, except these people who work for Drug-Free America, which did more harm to children than any other organization in the history of Florida. Mel Simber and his crew, I can't think of a more despicable human being. All you got to look at is what he did back in the 80s.
So you said it wouldn't, you're not looking for it to be legal to be used in public, so how do you envision this, people just being able to use it in privacy of
Yeah,
their own homes?
you go, just like you vape. You bring your vape pen, you use it, you come home. We're not talking about, something you go to and you pay a crazy amount of money for it. It's a lot cheaper over at Boone High School than at Certera. You got to really pay to get it legal. Now, if you want to go to Boone, the valedictorians probably got some in the glove compartment. The smart guys are always the ones selling it.
Would people be allowed to bring it like to their workplace?
They could bring it, they couldn't smoke it. They couldn't smoke it. You can't. The whole idea is you can't. We don't want secondhand smoke. We don't want marijuana smoke. It cannot be smoked in a public place, and it shouldn't be. You can't smoke cigarettes here at work. Years ago, when I was a young lawyer, I used to smoke cigars here. Now I can't. So that's okay with us because we're not talking about pleasure. We're talking about medicine.
The Supreme Court is a conservative court. Do you see them siding with patients or legislature?
The Supreme Court, in this particular situation, I believe that the language in the statement of intent, I believe that the ballot language that says it can't be smoked in public, coupled with the 72% vote, I think that if Judge Scalia was alive, he would side with us. When you read Karen Gievers' opinion, it just, when they said it, that when I was up there at the trial, and they actually said this, Gary was there, he heard it, I think he filmed it. He said, well, the statement of intent, yes, it's in there, but the voters don't read that. Then why do we have that? And then why did they use the statement of intent as their main argument in the Redner case? The statement of intent is the intent, period. And that's why I don't think any court will ever rule against us, no matter how conservative, because I think most judges, they may bend a little, but when it's black and white, it's black or white.
Just a matter of education so they understand what the smoke really is in the house, not in the public.
It's in the house.
It's simple.
Yes, it's that simple. So, on one hand, I'm very happy. On the other hand, the fight goes on. They did not count on a person like me. Thank God I have the resources. Thank God I went to law school. Thank God I hate to lose. And listen, everywhere I go to the grocery store, I go to the gas station, people come up to me, they thank me. They thank me over and over and over again. I was at a Publix in Port Orange the other day. This couple wants something, they go, we just want to tell you thank you. I said, what's your name? Said, we're the Mehans. We're nobody, but we thank you. I said, you're not nobody. You're the Mehans from Port Orange, Florida. You're somebody. And that happens over and over again. And that's why I really believe that Governor Scott is playing with political wildfire for something that he doesn't have to do. And by the way, anybody that's upset if he decided to drop this appeal, they're not going to vote against him because of that. Either they're going to switch parties and jump over to Bill Nelson because of this. Not a chance. And so I think that Governor Scott has a chance, a political chance, to make a huge dent. Think about this. Think about the headlines tomorrow. Great Scott. Governor Scott drops medical marijuana appeal. I think he gains 5 points overnight.
Can I ask you a question, Judge? Any updates on the FIU bridge collapse that you may have?
But we're representing a lot of the people who were in that bridge collapse, and we're just, we filed a lawsuit. We got one of our clients has got a terrible brain injury, and we just continue to get it. We got structural engineers. I mean, it's going to be a case. To me, that case is going to be about how much. I mean, what went on down there was gross negligence. So we represent 3 or 4 people who were terribly injured in that accident. And my son Matthew, who's in treatment today, was kind of a cool day for me. Today, my son Matthew took my youngest son Dan, and they're picking a jury somewhere here in Orlando. So,
Thank you.
thank you. All right, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Good job.